On this episode of Food Storage Feast, I'll show you to take some very basic ingredients, use some basic equipment, and produce a world-class French loaf. Well, getting started, folks, here are the ingredients. Basically, flour, water, yeast, and salt. Now, this is the machine that I use to make my flour. The grain maker, I know the people who build this. They used to be my neighbors in Montana. It is an awesome machine. Once you have your flour, the process is quite simple. Just using a stand mixer with a dough hook attachment is all you need. And you mix this up. The water goes in first with the yeast. Then you add your flours. There's two different types of flour. There's bread flour essentially, and then a whole wheat flour. Those ingredients go in there with salt, and that is it. It's very simple to make this. Now, it also can be made kneaded by hand. It's definitely more work. This is much easier now. You can see the ingredients are in there. The dough hook, see how shaggy the dough looks at this point? As the dough hook works, it will slowly but surely make the loaf or the dough smoother, and all of the stuff will come off the sides as those glutens develop. And this is what you're doing. The bread is being kneaded by that dough hook. So the gluten strands deep within the dough are starting to develop, and it'll start to get much smoother like you see there. And this takes about 4 to 5 minutes depending upon your mixer. Now you want this to be tacky. In other words, it feels like a wet Play-Doh sort of. Maybe not wet, but just tacky, not sticky where it's all over your hands. So then put it in the bowl, put some wrap on it, and it needs to go to sleep for a while. It needs to start its fermentation process. So after about 6 hours has passed, you can see how much this dough has risen. It's produced, there's a lot of gases in there from those yeast eating the carbohydrates in there, and then they off gas. That's what causes the bread to rise. So you want to deflate it. And this is something that, do you have to do this? You don't have to do it. I think the results are better when you do it. You develop a better crust. So deflate it just by, I just take a rubber spatula and just, scrape down the sides a little bit, and you can see that most of the gases have come away. Now you put the wrap back on, and then you just wait some more. And you try to do this twice before you shape the loaf. So after another 6 hours has passed, it's going to puff right up again like that. So you've got a very active fermentation. This is at 12 hours. I do the same thing. Now this bread can be baked anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. But I like, 12, 18, or 18 hours is probably the minimum that I like to go. But you can experiment. So once you've reached that point, you just put a little bench flour on your surface there, and you take your dough out. Now, you can just see it's a tacky finish here, but it's not super sticky. And this is easy to put together. Now, the bottom side is going to be your taut skin. That'll be your outside crust. So you're just going to start folding this over, pressing down. Now, you don't want to capture bubbles in there. Some are inevitable, but you don't want any really big ones. So you just kind of get it together like this, and then you're going to turn this thing over, and now using a simple motion of squeezing and pulling, that's going to stretch the top of the dough, and that's what's important, is stretching that top. Now, if you see any bubbles in the process here, you definitely want to address them by just giving a little rupture. You can use the tip of a knife, anything, because big bubbles will cause a big bubble in the bread, and not like it's bad to eat. But then you flip it over, and I like to just squeeze it together and seal the bottom somewhat like that. Now that is the part that's going to rest on parchment paper, and this is a sheet tray with parchment paper. There's other ways to do this. You could put that dough like it is there into a proofing basket and then turn it out onto your stone. That's a little more challenging. Sometimes you can have problems. So I've designed this recipe just with a sheet tray and parchment paper, as easy gets. So just put it on there and make sure you've maintained kind of a round shape. Cover it up with a clean kitchen towel. You don't want this one to have a lot of laundry smell. After about 45 minutes, you're turning your oven on 450. Then you're probably getting to at least an hour before that dough is ready. Now I take a little strainer and some flour and dust the surface, and then you do what's called scoring. Now over in France and in Paris, there's Poilâne, and that's a very famous bakery. They make a dough quite similar to this. It's naturally leavened. There's no yeast. They make a P in the top when they bake it, and it comes out really cool. So this one was just popped in the oven. And now I'm going to give you another look at this just in 5 minutes, and you can take a peek and see it's starting to jump. It's hitting that hot oven, it jumps up, and then this is what it looks like when it's cooked. And that's about, depending on your oven, at least 50 minutes, but probably more like 55. You get a nice solid crust on the bottom and the beautiful cut marks on the top. But you can't mess with this for 2 hours. If you cut it open, it's going to steam and a lot of the moisture will go out and you kind of wreck the bread. That's the hard part, is waiting. Now you can see this is a pretty firm bread, so I'm shaking the camera a bit here as I slice it. But look at the inside here. It's got a nice crumb, and the longer you ferment it, the bigger the holes will become. And this is perfect bread. I mean, it is so delicious. Absolutely love this bread, and this is something that I think is a skill that everybody needs to have, because being able to produce this quality of bread with 4 simple ingredients that come out of your pantry, when you can take your stored grain and mill it down and create this, you're going to be living large. So here's some bonus footage of me and the G, who's my son. Bread is just legendary with plain with butter, and there's Garrett grabbing it. But I'm going to shut up now and let you enjoy the rest of this video, and I hope you make this bread soon, like today. What do you think? Pretty good? Mm-hmm. That's the best bread, huh?
At school, a bunch of kids use white bread.
White bread?
And it's soft.
Soft, nasty stuff. Doesn't have a crunch like this.
It doesn't look anything like that.
Doesn't look anything like that? No, I didn't think so. You want more?
And it's white.
It's white. Yeah. Here you go. That's yummy. There you go, bud. Oh boy, that is, wow. That's some good bread.